Welcome to the show, my friend. Been
Glad
getting
to
to
be
watch,
here, man.
getting to check out a lot of your work there on Reveal. This is how I start every show. I'm going to run the big fancy Reveal logo and make it official, and then we'll chat.
Awesome.
All right, glad you could be here. We were just talking about how much I miss California, and I know the weather's wonderful as always versus the East Coast here and being freezing. Uh, thanks for that. As the constant reminder that maybe I made the wrong choice on where to live for 2021. You have three films on Reveal currently: Curse, Deploy, and Murder Was the Name. I had a chance to watch all three of them before we chatted, and your range of creativity is all over the place because you can tell the most serious story. You've got just a great, straightforward horror film with all the jump scares, and then like comedy to boot. That's not something that everyone can do. You're usually kind of good at one thing. Do you enjoy creating in all those genres? Is it sort of like feeling it out and kind of deciding where your strengths are, or are you just sort of no boundaries? I'm gonna make whatever story comes next.
That's an interesting question, man. And I think, me trying to find myself as a filmmaker, that was something that I was really trying to focus on. But the reality is I was actually talking to one of my friends and he was telling me, like, honestly, man, there shouldn't be any genre. If you're a visual storyteller, if you're here to tell stories and give back to the world, tell your story. Whatever that story is, that's what you should do. You should tell it. Don't go searching for this genre because you figure, well, certain directors or actors playing in certain roles, or they're just boxed in. Tell your story. What's on your mind? Tell it. And honestly, that's the director or actor I want to be. I want to be the one to tell my story.
It's interesting because studios and managers and things will often try to like pigeonhole you because it's an easier sell. Like, he's the horror guy. It's like, I make other films too, but I always try to point out and never a comparison to. I'm not trying to say I have the talent of Steven Spielberg. I just say, like, Steven Spielberg made Schindler's List and Jurassic Park in the same year. Those movies couldn't be further apart from one another if you tried. So, like, if he gets to play in different genres, why can't we all? Why do we have to sort of like have those labels along the way? With Deploy, I think something that's really impressive about that film, you say so much. You make such a huge statement about things like PTSD and suicide in America. That's a big epidemic that's been ongoing. But you also do it without saying anything. There's no dialogue in the movie. It's all the facial expressions, just reading the character, and your choice of sound design, which tells so much about what's going on in its head. I mean, tell me about creating a movie without any dialogue. That's got to be tough.
I wish I could say it was tough. I think for me, it was more of a feeling thing. I am also a veteran. I've been in the Navy over 13 years. My last duty station was a special warfare station, probably one of the most fun I've had. And I've kind of been studying PTSD for a while now, and it's something kind of close to me because being a veteran, sometimes when you get out the military, let's say even without PTSD itself, when you get out the military, you lose your sense of purpose. And the reason being is because in most cases, I used to be a Navy recruiter. And what happened is what I found is that people will join the military for three reasons: either inspiration, two reasons, either inspiration or desperation. And in most cases, inspiration because, they want to, not in most cases, in less cases, inspiration because maybe they want to serve, they want to be patriotic, maybe their family members probably served in the military. And desperation is because in most cases, they're actually running from something. They're running from their spouse. They're running from society. They can't find a job. That master's degree they have is not worth anything. And then it all boils down to not having purpose. So when you join the military gives you that purpose. You have a reason to wake up. You go through boot camp. They indoctrinate you. They give you a creed. Every branch has a creed. The Army, the Navy, the Marines, we all have a creed. And when you listen to that creed, the creed, what's common in all of them, I am, I will. And if you know anything about these two words, they're the most powerful words on the planet. And anything that follows those words tends to start the creation of it. So in a sense, they have to create you to become a Marine. You can't just join the military and become a Marine. Boot camp is the transition of a new identity, a new character for you. Now, when you get out the military, regardless if you go to war or not, when you get out the military, you lose that identity. you lose that character. And without that identity, you don't have purpose. Without purpose, you don't have direction. Where there's no direction, there's fear. And you can be in a world filled with millions of people and still feel alone. And for me, it was a feeling thing when making that movie. I had to really live that. I had to live through that role. Like, I really felt, when I just got out, it was a hard transitioning period for me. That's why I became an entrepreneur. So I had to really live through that role without speaking, so to say. I hope that makes sense.
I should point out to people that you are also the actor in your film, the actor director. I was going to say that you have so many multi hyphenates of, like, writer, producer, working the camera, editing. Like, I don't think you could fit all of the things you do across one business card. You'd have to hand people a couple cards side by side and say, this is what I do. Even one of the films that we'll talk about, you act opposite yourself in multiple roles in the film. So how is that relationship, being the actor, basically directing yourself? How do you work being behind the camera and in front of the camera at the same time?
Well, that takes a lot of work, I guess, if you want to put it that way easily. Having to bounce back and forth is a lot of patience. At the time, I was using my starter camera, so I had to use autofocus. So I set the camera up, then I have to go in front of the camera, do a take, make sure everything's working right. And I'm sitting there, there's a small screen. I didn't have a monitor yet, so I don't know if it's going to work. So I got to go back and check now to see if it's in focus, if it's working. And then sometimes when I put it up on the computer screen, it won't be right. So now I have to go back to the drawing board again. So that part was hard. But I think for me, I was just so passionate about making film, I had to become bigger than my problem. So it really didn't stop me. So I wouldn't really call it a challenge physically. Mentally, it wasn't, man, because, film for me now is do or die. So it was interesting to say, hard. Every now and then I have, like, my 10-year-old son. For any shots that you see that's moving, my 10-year-old boy, he would grab the camera and I will teach him. And, he loves doing that type of stuff. So he will hold the camera for me. But for the most part, that's why a lot of the camera shots were actually still. I just set it on the tripod, get in front of it, and I get to do as many takes that I want. I'm not crunched against the time. A true pandemic film, so to say.
I was going to ask which of these projects have been shot during the pandemic and not. The Murder Was the Name. I have to assume Definitely. That was a pandemic project because it states living in the pandemic in the film.
Oh man.
I think you're doing it right. You've got, especially that, you've got one actor. You're essentially, that was a self-made movie that's you and no one else, right?
Yep.
Which, again, there's all these productions, big and small, trying to figure, including my own, where we're trying to figure out how do we bring people back safely on set, and everything's about paring down and trying to find the smallest, way to make that happen. And I was just watching that in awe, being like, if only I could act, maybe I could do this. I could be, I live with an actress. My wife's an actress, and we have a couple things in development, and we've made some very small scale shorts and even a feature, but I was super, super impressed with that. And that goes to, as I looked you up and researched you, you're like a prolific content creator in the last year or so. Like I couldn't even count the number of things that you've sort of put out in various social media channels. And where do you find that motivation to be wearing so many hats and working on so many projects and also just cranking them out for people?
Well, I think it all starts back to when I get out of the military, me trying to find purpose, trying to find who I am. I want to be an entrepreneur. So I went on this self-development journey, and I had some good mentors, and, they told me to read books and stuff, and it came with a paradigm shift. So once I start having a paradigm shift, I start trying all these a multitude of different things. I was a realtor. I was a speaker. I was a book marketing consultant. I was helping people go bestseller on Amazon. And I was in sales and personal development. Because I became a dedicated student of personal development, it changed who I was. But at the end of the day, I felt like I was committing spiritual suicide. It was like this hole inside of me, something I need to find, right? And then a good friend of mine named William, who just so happens to be the CEO of Reveeld.
Never heard of him. Never heard of him.
Never heard of him. He reached out to me and he said, man, you should think about acting. Because while I was doing all these things, I was making a lot of content. I was making videos. I was making anything that could be on the screen, anything to give back to people. But I was just so much more interested in the content that I was putting out for people than what I was actually doing. Like I was a realtor and I would make videos. I had made like these little skits about real
Hmm.
estate. And I enjoyed doing that more than sitting on an open house waiting for somebody to come in to talk to them. And I fooled myself because I was doing it for money. But the reality is, I'm not at that point anymore. I'm doing this because this is my purpose, right? What's the guy? Tony Robbins says success without fulfillment is still considered failure. So as far as content wise, the reason why I put out so much is because I have a lot to say, you know, and for me, it's not really a problem. I want to do it. I'm pulled towards it so I can push out content and content. And I think everything I've done in the past as a creator, whether it be for motivation, because I used to be a speaker also, or anything else, has led me up to this moment. So
I
it is
think
the catalyst I am.
it was interesting to me, you know, right before we started the interview, you mentioned that you're currently in film school, which blows my mind because usually the path I see is people in film school get so wrapped up in making like the one short film they have to make over 3 years or whatever. And they're not, my advice has always been to people, if you're going into film school, don't rely on just film school. Get out, work on other people's sets, be creative, be creating content, because when you finish film school, you're going to walk out and hold up your degree and be like, look, I went to film school, hire me. And everyone's going to say, great, what have you done? And it won't, you know, the film school degree almost doesn't matter. And you're on an amazing path that you're creating so much content while simultaneously going to school. I think you will only learn so much fast. And watching your work, it blows my mind that you're only at the beginning of this journey. And I think you're technically then the first child of Reveeel. Then, if William
I
inspired
guess
you,
so, pretty
and
much,
yeah,
because I'm real. I would say 7 to 8 months really in. I've been in school for maybe 4 to 5 months, maybe.
have you done any acting previously, like before you started this?
No. What I did, I took a couple of classes right here in Temecula, but no, acting was something kind of was my first love. And you know, if, like I said, the CEO of the company, he recommended, hey, you should think about acting. What happened was I felt like I needed to be more in control because an actor, you have to go out there and you pretty much have to beg, can I act in your role? So me being the director and already a storyteller, I was like, okay, I can make my own movies and put myself in the movies. But now I'm starting to realize the more I'm in front of the camera, the less the quality might be, so to say. And I guess that's for the eyes of who's watching, I guess. But I'm my own worst critique. But when I'm behind the character, I can produce more quality content. So I'm going to work it out some way, one way or the other. So for instance, you're a director. If you got a movie going on and you're looking for an actor, I'm your guy. Just look me up.
You are untapped talent, my friend. That again blows my mind that you haven't been acting, because you know the roles, also the roles that you're jumping into here, like Deploy, for example, is a very serious, like heady role, you know, and it takes a long time sometimes for actors to realize how to say things without dialogue to convey,
Mm,
you know, emotion and things. And I think you're nailing it. Cursed, which you also star in and work behind the camera, is this, you know, it's 30 minutes long. It's the longest short of yours that I know of. Would you say this is your most ambitious project to date?
yes,
I mean,
it
maybe tell
is.
people a little bit about what Cursed is about.
Okay, so curse in a nutshell is basically about cause and effect. It's about how your actions, no matter what, is going to affect you, good or bad. And the protagonist in this story, he basically was mean to a past friend. And one day he met him because that's how life works, right? We're all connected. And one day he meets him at a store selling these weird trinkets and stuff. And the friend, he was very nice to him. Him being surprised, he couldn't believe it. He took I guess, a token of, hey, I forgive, please forgive me. He give him a little rock and he gave him these words. Say, hey, if you chant these magical words on the rock, a typical type of story uh, is gonna bring you success, fame, etc., etc. The protagonist, he took it because he kind of felt sorry for the guy, all the wrong things he did. But in reality, he was a struggling filmmaker. So even though he was joking around while taking the rock from him, when he went home, in the back of his mind, I need to do better. So he repeats these words, and lo and behold, it was cursed. And I guess shit went downhill from there.
I feel like there's a meta humor to it anytime there's a story about a filmmaker, and the opening conversation of that movie is trying to convince his producing partner to fund a drone. And
Yep.
often I joke, it's not always true, but I do joke that generally if I'm sitting at a film festival or somewhere and an independent horror movie starts and it starts with a drone shot, I usually roll my eyes and be like, this movie's going to be terrible, because there just generally seems to be a pattern of, if they thought a car driving shot over the woods with a drone was, you know, they thought that was their most original idea. I'm like, everyone's done
Mm,
it since Kubrick and The Shining. But I thought it was funny that there's a conversation in there about how we need a drone to, you know, to up production value, and how it can be a business venture as well for real estate. What's funny about that to me is, like, this is the first project of yours I saw with a drone. So I wondered, maybe, I'm like, did you actually convince a producing partner to buy a drone so that you could use a drone on Cursed?
no, the drone was, for me as a filmmaker, you know, having an establishing shot is really
Of
important.
course.
And the drone does bring that. So I guess you, as being already established in the industry, it's really cliche to see a drone shot now. But for the new guy coming in, man, every movie I watch, so it kind of goes back to what
Oh,
you're saying.
I'm not
Every movie
saying
I
your
watch,
film. I'm not saying
it's
yours.
a drone shot.
It's particularly when it's a drone shot over the woods somewhere remote, following a car, going to a cabin or whatever. I'm just like, I've
Mm.
seen this 100,000 times. I use drone shots myself all the time. We all do. They're one of the best tools ever. So I'm not speaking specifically to
Oh,
you.
no worries, no worries. Trust me.
Yeah, just talking about a joke with, you know, with Cursed again. It was a left turn from your other projects. I see you've got amazing jump scares in there, and again, I'm trying not to give things away because I highly encourage people, go watch
Okay.
Cursed on Reveal, or maybe even pause this, go watch it and come back. And you know, you've got some amazing creepy things happening in the background, and I kind of like that this character is so, a little bit self-obsessed, a little bit like just has horse blinders on to what's happening around him, that the whole time you just want to scream at him, like, look behind you, look in that mirror. And the idea that the curse involves a mirror, and then you start to see reflections and things that are happening. I thought it was very well paced. What is that like for you as a director to create? It's a whole different approach to create those scares and create that tension in a movie. How do you go about crafting and picking the frames, and deciding how to scare people?
Well, first I had to watch at least maybe over 40 different horror films. I would say a lot of inspiration for Curse came from Hereditary. It came from The Exorcist. It came from, what's the other one? I forgot the name of
Things
it.
like Insidious or
Insidious,
Sinister. Yep.
absolutely.
Yep.
Insidious was definitely in the top on there, and I've watched so much, so I start getting the feels for how the way horror should be built. You know,
Mhm.
I'm not a big fan of jump scares, but I believe you have to earn a jump scare.
Of course.
And I think that was important instead of just putting loud noise. So for me, getting them to love the character at the beginning was imperative to me. You know, I had to try to be funny. That conversation, to me, the conversation at the very beginning of Curse was the most important. And I told the actor, the guy who was with me, I'm like, look, this conversation has to be the best. And for them to like the protagonist. And while going through it, I had to walk, because I filmed it in my house, you know,
Mhm.
literally this home right here where I'm at. In fact, one of the things is behind me there.
Oh, I've been staring at it the whole
And,
time.
and the doll is creepy as hell. Got it on Amazon.
That
And
I'm equally disturbed by the doll over your shoulder, and then the fact that you own two gimbals and I don't own one. So, you know, yeah.
oh, gimbals are important. And I
Yeah.
didn't have any gimbals when I filmed this, by the way. It was um handheld and tripod. But yeah, I had to walk through my house and figure out what's right and what's wrong. And what's funny is I filmed this. It took me 6 months to film this. And the reason why it took me 6 months is because I continued to grow as a filmmaker. So I would shoot the whole movie or shoot a scene. And then while I'm learning and while I'm growing, I have to shoot the scene over. And I did that I want to say I probably did that 7 times, because I'll go back and be like, oh my God, I've grown since then. I need to change this. And I think that's the reason why a lot of the some people are terrified by it. You know, some of the feedback I've gotten, I didn't expect that, but I literally had to walk through this house, even without the camera, and and actually feel myself in the home, wondering, okay, at what corner would I be scared? You know, so me having to study the psychology of horror and film, I mean, a lot of thought went into this movie as far as psychology.
It shows. It definitely shows. And having made what you say about the reaction of the film, having made a few horror films myself, the horror film community is strong, and they are vocal, and it's one of the most, like, loving, inviting communities ever. Horror fans just want to keep seeing horror movies, and they invest so much in you and your project. So I did have a chance to see how it's doing on platforms, and you know, it's a very strong film. And again, shifting away from horror, we have to talk about Murder Was the Name, which I think is hilarious. Like I didn't, by the title of the track, I'm like, okay, it sounds like a song reference. I'm not really sure where this is going. And it's hilarious. And I told you on Facebook chat before we started this, I didn't realize you were both characters. So
Oh,
kudos
wow.
again to your acting. I assumed you had two actors. Didn't know until I read the credits. I'm like, wait, there's only one actor. Oh, it's both. So I had to go back and rewatch it because I was like, again, the fact that you're just starting out in acting, it blows my mind because the performances, both of them are so good. And I think as a filmmaker, I'm like, how is he directing and keeping everything in line and playing both the roles? There's not even another person there to like stand behind the camera and hit record. That opening tracking shot, that's sort of the Hornet's point of view. It reminded me, I don't know if you remember the opening of Men in Black with Will Smith. I think it's following like a mosquito along. Well, it's got like Danny Elfman's like,
Okay.
so it's sort of
Okay.
like the point of view of that, which I really love. But where it got hilarious for me was when that sort of ends, and the window breaks and you reveal the Hornet,
The
and it's
Hornet.
this man in a Hornet costume. And I really liked it because the comedy was good. It kept evolving. I was like, okay, so is this about a weird superhero named the Hornet that we've never heard of? And then it rolls into the pandemic and this threat that murder hornet. There was that week-long scare where everybody's like, wait, we can't deal with murder hornets at the same time as the pandemic. I thought you just tapped on something, and I mean, what a fun way to kind of mock what we're all going through, and the way that
Absolutely.
the news just keeps trying to throw curveballs at us. So I commend you. And then the other, again, I don't want to spoil too much of the movie, but there's the shot where the murder hornet, are on top of the fridge trying to go through the cupboard. I was laughing hysterically because the framing and the positioning, just the absurdity of this, full-size man-shaped hornet was great. So, I mean, tell us about making that.
Man, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. My kids helped me with the costume and help drawing and stuff. So they're seeing their dad looking crazy, and because you got to be a little bit crazy to make films like this. You don't have to care about other people's opinions, and which I don't. It's a level of freedom when you don't. And this film came about because I just think that during the pandemic, when all hell is breaking loose, the sky is falling, and people are already scared and terrified as it is. The news names the Asian hornet, or AKA Vesper mandarinia, hopefully I'm saying that right, the murder hornet. And I just think it's really fascinating that they'll use that as propaganda to, and I'm not a big political guy, but at the moment when I see it, I'm like, wow, if things isn't bad enough, we're already running out of toilet paper. Now they're bringing this murder hornet. So I'm start thinking about, okay, this is a good opportunity to put content out that people would love, because the murder hornets are already, they have their own memes. They probably have their own TV show somewhere. I don't know. But I was like, you know what would happen if a murder hornet came into my house? Or what would happen if a murder hornet came to America? In fact, if any person tried to invade America, what would happen? So I think the story of the murder hornet, it tells a multitude of different things. It talks about America. It talks about, how we love our guns. It talks about the propaganda. And I just did it in a time where people are at their lowest, so maybe they can get a good laugh out of it. But it was absolutely fun to film.
It's funny for me, having grown up in the 80s, there was the killer bees that were coming, moving their way north and going to kill us all. So it just felt like when I read the murder hornet thing, I just went, oh, here we go again. It's just the same old thing. And then nobody,
Yeah.
and I was right. Nobody cares about it 6 months later. It's not a real threat. What's the immediate next project for you? What do you think you're going to film next? And if you can share any details, I know often things have to be kept secret.
No, well, I'm working on a sci-fi, and this is, I'm taking it a whole nother level right now. It's going to be a sci-fi typically during the pandemic, but it's going to be in a multiverse. It's going to be in a different planet.
This sounds like you're going to be playing multiple characters already.
Honestly, I'm sitting this one out. I'm going to be doing a cameo. I got more actors for this. And because I'm growing, so a lot more people are starting to see my work. So they're a lot interesting. So I do have a couple of actors. I might do a short cameo in here, but it's basically going to be about to put it without giving it away, it's about trying to figure out if the pandemic was caused by aliens or the government.
Okay. Equally could be both at this point. They haven't pinpointed it yet.
Nobody knows. And the people here on this different multiverse are trying to survive through it all while people are disappearing. Nobody knows what's happening. Is it them or is it them here?
Or them partnered together, perhaps.
Them partnered together. So it's gonna be a little bit. It sounds like humor, but it really isn't. So it's gonna start like an action, go into like drama, and then it's gonna end terrifying.
I know you're a fan of Reveal as much as a filmmaker on Reveal. I've read some of your reviews for other films on there. Do you have one or two recommendations of films people should check out on Reveal?
Am I Your Mom? Hopefully I'm saying it right.
By the way, my film? Are You My Mommy?
Yes, your film.
Oh, well, I wasn't asking to have my butt kissed, but thank you. Yes.
No, it's funny because I didn't, when they said I was going to do the interview and they told me it was you. I'm like, Gavin, is this the Gavin that I talked to? I'm like, holy crap, I'm a fan. And I highly recommend watching his film.
Are You My Mommy? It's a 50-minute short.
Are You My Mommy?
Yeah, I'll take
Can you tell him? Let me take over now as a thing. Please tell him about your film, sir. Because I enjoy it.
It's a film that my friend Paula Jean wrote. It was a handful of Canadians that all moved to LA, and we're just like, well, nobody's hiring us yet. Let's make something. And Paula had this hilarious take on the treatment of women, particularly older women in Hollywood, and just found a really neat way to bring that out in this satire / action movie / comedy. And it's a mix of all kinds of genres and styles. And fun fact for you is Paula is also the lead actress in the film, and her husband in real life, Neil, is the hero in the movie. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, check that one out. And what else? What else have you seen on Reveeld?
Mustache Brigade.
Yep.
Another good one. Definitely a brain cell killer. But it was
we had funny. Ryan was the first guest on Reveeld, so we got to talk through their projects. Yeah. Fat Films. I got to get one of their hoodies. I keep kind of hinting at them that they should mail me.
Oh, I saw that you was talking to. Okay, count me into. I think I'm gonna need to get a hoodie also.
Yeah.
Another good one I watched too is, man, I can't remember the name right now. I'm having a brain fart, but it's about these ladies. They're basically, they killed man, I'm gonna give away the movie, but they're tormenting a guy who is supposed to be a rapist.
Okay.
I really enjoyed that. Really enjoyed that. And there's the other one I'm having.
Was it called Squeal?
Squeal.
That's also my film.
Squeal. That is.
Yeah. I swear I'm not taking a paid endorsement.
No.
I'm not giving him cash for plugging.
No, because it's funny because that was the next one I was about to review on Reveeld. Squeal.
Okay.
I thought was brilliant. I actually wanted more. So, oh my God. Here we
Hilarious.
go.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. For those who are watching this, I promise I did not know that was his film. It's one of those
listen, we're virtual. I can't hand him $20. There's no way for me to pay him for this. I guess I could give you some Bitcoin or something. Yeah.
And then there's one more, and I think it was one of the first ones that I review on there. And I don't know why I'm having this brain freeze because I had it written all down. It's practically about following your dreams, and it spoke to me. Me and my son actually watched together, and we really enjoyed it. And it's basically about following your dreams. I am the living exemplar of follow your passion, do what you love. And that movie, it was touching. It was really well done. Cinematography, the story.
I will seek that one out. I think here's what we'll do is when you do remember it, when this interview comes out next week, you can share this interview and then say, oh, and by the way, this is the film that I was
absolutely. I'm sorry for the director that
no, it's fine. I'm going to seek that out. What you say about just following your dreams. That's my entire motivation. That's why I love hosting Reveeld. I just get to talk to other creative people and be inspired by their journeys and their stories. So I thank you a ton for joining us today. And I'm sure we're going to see a lot more content of yours on Reveeld in the future.
Indeed. Thank you, man. Really appreciate the time.
Anytime.